Yo, what's going on, guys? Spectrum here. We're back again for our USL draft analysis. The draft is finally over. After about 3 or 4 days or so, the draft is finally over. I finally got my team here, and I'm ready to discuss it. So let's kind of get into our first pick. So in draft order, I believe I was towards the bottom of the draft, like middle, like near the end, but also near the beginning. So I was in a weird draft location, and I had a few ideas in mind I wanted to go for. First pick, I wanted to do a God Core, and you guys can probably already see it happened because I never got sniped once. So let's go over this first beast, Zygarde 50, the king, one of the many kings of OU at the moment. So Zygarde 50 here, 108 HP, 100 attack, 121 defense, 81 special attack, 95 speed F, 95 speed. Zygarde here is, if you guys are watching my WCBL stuff, you guys know I'm using Zydog right now, so I figured I'm going to use the Snick, the nice Zy Snake. So it's basically the same exact thing. You just spam 1,000 arrows, E speed, outrage, you set up, or you run choice band, coil. Like, this one is a little bit more different than Zygarde dog form because you can actually get away with more defensive stuff. Like, you can throw toxic, like 1,000 waves, for example, if you really want to get yeah, if you really want to get some cheeky, get really cheeky with it. Like, you could run 1,000 waves, 1,000 waves toxic sub protect, like a defensive Zygarde spread or like whatever really. So Zygarde was my first pick overall, and honestly, I could not be more happier with this pickup. So let's see how it goes. Honestly, like I said, I'm very excited to be using this Mon. So again, I did use it, but I used it terribly, and I didn't know how good it actually was. So now I know how to use it. Now I know how to utilize it. So moving on next, we picked up Crystal Meth, the Yancy. Oh, and Zygarde's nickname is GG Regardless because GG Regardless. Mega Diancie. This is the next mon I wanted to draft. It paired well. It gave me a good rock. It gave me a good fairy. This thing is honestly going to be very broken. Diamond Storm is an insane move. Gives you +2 defense or something this offensive. It's nuts. 160 in attack, 160 in special attack, 50 in HP, 110 in defense, 110 speed, 110 speed F. So you can easily get away with like a Calm Mind Diamond Storm kind of set, like a Double Dance sort of set with this thing. And with like Diamond Storm, Moonblast, and Calm Mind and stuff, like this thing will rip teams apart by itself. It gets Earth Power, it gets Diamond Storm, Moonblast, it just gets so much. It gets Psychic, it gets Rock Polish, it gets Stealth Rocks. It just has so much to offer for this kind of mon. This thing is honestly really good. So with the attack and special attack with the speed, this thing is just a glass cannon. It just breaks teams down one by one. So I'm very excited to be bringing you Mega Diancie Crystal Meth. So moving on next, I actually sniped somebody with this pick. I picked up Rotom Wash. Now, Rotom Wash to me was honestly one of my big pickups. I needed this thing. This thing is going to be one of my very many glues to this team. Like, Rotom Wash honestly gels with this team so much because it gives me a Volt Switcher, it gives me a bulky mon, it gives me a really good mon to outspeed those base 85 mons. It just gives me so much in one Pokemon. It gives me Hydro Pump, it gives me a Scarfer, it gives me a defensive mon, it gives me my decently fast electric type, It has coverage for days. It has Hydro Pump, Will-O-Wisp, T-Wave. It just gets so much. Shadow Ball, Signal Beam, Hydro Pump, Full Switch, Thunderbolt, Hex, Sub, Resto Chesto, Choice Scarf. So much in one mon. So honestly, I love Rotom. I haven't used Rotom too much as of late. 'Cause I've been drafting other things. I've been getting used to the new Gen 7 mechanics with it, but honestly, I think Rotom Wash offensively right now is the way to go because honestly, Rotom Wash is just one of those mons that it's been around since Gen 4. It was the king, one of the kings of Gen 4. Gen 5 did it good. Gen 6 was really good at bulky, but this gen hasn't been seeing much love, and I'm going to give it the love it deserves. Next up, we all know what I drafted. Buzz Killington, the Volcarona. And this is again my Z user. We all know what Volcarona does. Quiver dances up, breaks the meta, and that's basically that. Especially with Z moves. If you guys are keeping up with the VCBL, you know I haven't been using Volcarona too well, but honestly, I don't think I drafted the right team for Volcarona. But it's a good team. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy using it, but honestly, I think Volcarona in this team is going to be so much more broken. And everyone knows Volcarona, Quiver Dance setup, Roost, so on. So I don't really need to go over Volcarona. If you're watching WCBO, I don't really need to go over it. Next mon here is Delmise. Now, Delmise is a mon I have not been personally using too much. It's a fun mon. It gives me my ghost type, it gives me my grass type, so we got a nasty firewater grass core of Delmise, Volcarona, and Rotom Wash. I love that firewater grass. So, kind of looking at it here, Delmise is a cool mon. It has the ability Steelworker. Basically gives it a triple staff of Grass, Ghost, and Steel. It gets stuff like Anchor Shot, EQ. It could be a trapping mon, trapping defensive rapid spinner. It could be an offensive like Banded Sweeper. It just gets so much. It gets a wide variety of moves for it. It gets Heavy Slam, it gets Anchor Shot, EQ, Grass, Power Whip, Shadow Claw. I believe it gets Sneak, it gets Switcheroo, SD. It just gets a lot of cool moves. And honestly, I'm very excited to use Domice. It gives me a spinner that helps Volcarona, and I also have a Magic Bounce user now with Mega Diancie. So hazards are not too much of an issue for this team. Delmise is honestly really bulky as well. It has 131 attack, 100 defense, 90 Spadessa. So if I were to throw an assault vest on this thing, it could take some pretty good kits. It has 70 HP, 131 attack. That's insane. It doesn't have the best speed, but again, this is kind of a tank mon. It dishes out hits, but it can also take some hits. So that's Delmise. It's also named Cortez after Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door because that was my favorite game growing up on GameCube. Moving on next, we have Lotus, the Mienshao. Mienshao, I forgot to make it shiny. Mienshao is another one of my favorite Pokemon. I haven't used Mienshao since a league I was in that ended up, I believe, finishing, but I lost in finals due to one last turn hacks. But yeah. So 65 HP, 125 attack, 95 special attack, and 105 speed. But it has 60 in defenses. This thing can be one of three things. It can be, or two things. It can be a regenerator like annoyance, like U-turn kind of mon, or it can be a reckless like powerhouse that just blows teams away with high jump kick and all that stuff like fake out U-turn, knock off, poison jab. It just gets so much high jump kick. I wish it got close combat, but well, beggars can't be choosers, I suppose. Mienshao gets a lot of neat coverage. It gets, like I said, 65 HP, 125 attack, 60 in defenses, 95 in special attack. So For example, if I were to face something like Garchomp or Dragonite and I want to run an 8 Earth Gliscor, and I'm going to run an HP Ice, I could get away with it, put some nice special attack investment in it, 105 speed. It's such a good mon. Honestly, Volcarona in Tier 3 is so good. I love Volcarona. It's one of my favorite fighting types. Originally, I wanted to discuss something here. I was originally planning on going Cobalion and something else, but I switched some things up a little bit. I was going to originally go Nihilego and Cobalion, and I was going to grab stuff like Jinx, but you'll see later on that I switched some things up. So that is this section. I have 5 more mons I want to go over. So Pepe has returned. This is the next pickup of my draft. I really have been enjoying using Skuntank. Skuntank is honestly one of my favorite Pokemon right now to use. It gets, as you guys know, if you're watching WCBL, I don't really need to go over why I've been loving Skuntank. This thing has been putting in so much work. It puts in more work than Volcarona does in WCBL. But yeah, Skuntank, it's back. We all know why it's here. Defog support, so on and so forth. Moving on. We have grabbed a mon I haven't used since my first league, Bronzong. Now, Bronzong here actually opens up the door for a few options. Like, for example, Dhelmise. If I want to run like a weird Scar or a weird Trick Room, if I see Dhelmise destroys and Bronzong does as well, Bronzong and Dhelmise I can just throw a Trick Room up. Bronzong doesn't have the fastest speed, neither does Dhelmise, and then they can just rip the team apart one by one. Bronzong here, honestly, it's such a fun mon. 67 HP, 116 in its defenses, 79 special attack, and 89 attack. Bronzong is so fun. Like, you get Gyro Ball, you get Flash Cannon, you get Dual Screen, Stealth Rock. It gives you a defensive. It can be in like an offensive Trick Room set from DPP. With Explosion, it has Earthquake, it has the hidden powers, obviously. It just gets so much. It can run Future Sight, Gravity, which could be fun if, for example, I'm facing a Landorus Therian or something like that, and I want my ground types to hit it or something, something fun. Like I said, this thing just gives me a lot of utility in one mon, so it gets Hypnosis if needed. It just gets a lot of cool little coverage, so Bronzong, it's back. I haven't used Bronzong since, like I said, my first league, but I'm excited to use it again. I haven't used it much in Gen 7, so there's that. Next up, we have Absolute Zero. Absolutely Zero. The Cryogonal. Now, Cryogonal here is something I want to use to a better extent, because every time I use it, I just feel I don't use it to its full potential. It has Ice Beam. It has Aurora Veil if I really want to have that. It has Knockoff, Recover, Rapid Spin. It's a fun mod. I know I love Cryogonal a lot, as it has a good SPDF. It has a good speed stat, good special attack, decent HP, not the best defense, but with the defense on this team, like Zygarde, Bronzong, and these two pair up pretty comfortably together. Like, if for example, if I want to run a heat proof Bronzong and I want to run Cryogonal in the same week, like these two could pair up so nicely together. Cryogonal doesn't like ice types, fire types, but heat proof Bronzong wouldn't take too much. It wouldn't take a lot. It would take some good damage, but it wouldn't take a lot. Cryogonal here gels with this team so nicely because of its SPDF. It gets a lot of good coverage. And I like Cryogonal, so Cryogonal coming back. I can't wait to use it again. It's one of those mons that I know how to use, and I want to bring it back to use it to its full potential. Moving on here, we have a mon I've never actually had before. I've never had Dhelmise, and I've never had Nidoqueen, which is my next pick. Nidoqueen here is something I've been wanting to use. I used Nidoking before, but I've never used Nidoqueen, which is arguably a little bit better because of the bulk, but it has Poison Point, Sheer Force, and Rivalry. Sheer Force is your go-to ability, obviously. It gets it just gets a stupid amount of coverage. Aqua Tail, Blizzard, Avalanche, Dragon moves, ground moves, Stealth Rocks, T Spikes. It gets Superpower. It gets Sucker. It gets Poison coverage. It gets Bolt Beam if it gets Fire and Ice coverage. It doesn't get Thunderbolt, which yeah it does. It gets Bolt Beam and Fire coverage, and like it thing just gets stupid amount of coverage. So we even need to say more. It's just it gets so wide of a move pool. It's just such a good mon, and honestly, I'm very excited to use Nidoqueen. I've never used it, but I can't wait to give it a shot. Nidoqueen is one of those mons that it's one of the Nidos. It just basically has coverage on deck for like everything you need it for. Like if you want a defensive mon, Nidoqueen is there. If you need an offensive like breaker, this thing's not bad at it. It's not that fast. It's got a decent stealth, decent bulk, decent like attacking power. So Nidoqueen, I don't use it that much. I prefer Nidoking personally, but I think Nidoqueen fits more with this team. So moving on here, we have our last pickup. This I was originally gonna put Braviary here, but I saw I could afford a tier 2, so I have decided to go Staraptor. Staraptor is going to be so much fun. It's a breaker that has godlike attack and godlike stats and godlike speed. It has Reckless as an ability. Staraptor can be a late game sweeper, it can be a breaker, it could be a lot of different things I need it to be. Like, for example, if I don't like something instantly, I can just click Final Gambit and gone. Brave Bird, Double Edge, U-turn, Close Combat, it gets Whirlwind if I really want to be that cheeky. Roost, it gets Quick Attack, it gets Pursuit, it just gets a lot of. It's not the most cover-wise mon, but you know what it's gonna do. It's gonna spam Brave Bird on you, Brave Bird or Double Edge on you, and honestly, Staraptor is a breaker for something like Volcarona and something like Mega Diancie, Zygarde. Like, if you could break stuff for Mega Diancie, break the Steel types, which honestly is not that difficult because no Steel type in the game can realistically beat Zygarde and Volcarona on the same team. Stuff like Mega Diancie and stuff like Staraptor just becomes that much more good. Like grass types could be annoying for this team, but because Zygarde at that point couldn't do much. But again, when you have stuff like Volcarona, you have stuff like Staraptor that break it. It's just nothing. Like this team, honestly, is in my opinion one of my best drafts, if not my best draft. And I am honestly very, very excited to be bringing you WCBL. Uh, Not really season 1 or season 2 because season 1 kind of died for Blue. But I'm very excited to be bringing you this draft, honestly. So, honestly, get hyped. The Hearthome Hoopas are coming back, basically, and they're here to take blood. So, thank y'all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And peace, y'all.